Welcome to Beers with Contractors.
All right, tradies, another episode of Beers with Contractors. Happy Thursday to all of you out there. Terry is out with his class schedule, and we hope to have him back next week. But it's okay because I've got one of my favorite compadres helping me out today, answering some of the tough questions that you guys have been wanting to know. Like, what the hell's going to happen in 2026 with my leads and all of that, because we know we got to have leads to drive our business. So today, Mike Stiers, my friend, the digital marketing expert and partner at Greenbaum Stiers, and now sponsor of the podcast. Love that. Mike works closely with so many of my clients and contractors all over the country. Him and his team are awesome, helping generate leads for the customer acquisition costs. But not only that, and we're going to get into it today, but their full strategic mindset around marketing as a business plan is what they do best at Greenbaum Stiers. So, Mike, good to see you, sir. Cheers to you.
Appreciate it, Will. Cheers to you. I got a little Saucy Brew Works here from Columbus, Ohio, little IPA.
That's right. You Ohio guys, you always have to get your little micro brews, man.
I know it's the IPA thing. It's funny. It comes up every time. Anytime I go somewhere, somebody's got a Coors, a Miller, and a Busch Latte, and then I'm like IPA, and it's become a joke.
Yeah.
So,
well, what I love about you, Mike, is you don't know it all, but you got a team that knows it all, and we're going to give you all the credit for their hard work today, right?
Hey, good. I'll take it.
But yeah, I mean, let's dive in. I know last year for a lot of contractors, it was rough. Lead gen was down, had a lot of issues going on, had a lot of change with AI. We're going to dive into all that today. But as contractors head into 2026, what's the single biggest shift that you see coming specifically in the digital market?
I mean, you nailed it. The biggest shift is that you've got all these changes that are happening right now on these platforms because AI is involved. It's either involved on the back end. We were always used to the Google ads where it was structured by keyword, and now it's more by intent. Google obviously knows what these folks are searching, and that's kind of the way that it's working with like the PMax and the AI Max. Now Microsoft's trying to change the game and, copy off of Google as well. So that's a bummer for us because we really liked the traditional Microsoft ads. And then, of course, I'm sure you've heard about Meta. Zuck's got a goal to replace agencies, which, I mean, at this point, it's pretty funny. If you let their platform run the stuff for you, you're just going to burn your cash. But, if you're paying attention to it, the algorithm's a heck of a lot better on that platform now. So I think we're just in a learning phase.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to that because I know I look like I know everything, but I don't because I advertise on Bing. But what's changing in Microsoft?
So Microsoft always pulled pieces out of Google's playbook, and we liked it because it made it so easy. If you built a successful Google Ads campaign, you could just import that directly into Microsoft, and then you could just make optimizations. And the platform was, let's say, 3 to 5 years behind in the way that it was, doing optimizations. But it was cool. It was remedial. It was very keyword-based, bottom funnel. You could kind of control it easily. And now they started implementing all of these expansions into their networks. They've got, some AI. They're trying to do their version of PMax, which, I certainly would not recommend at this point. But, you can still advertise with success there, just bottom funnel.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. One thing that it's always easy for us to do is, of course, throw more money at marketing. And then all of a sudden, like with post-COVID, throwing all of our costs, man, they were just brutal the last few years. In your opinion, what's realistically going to drive lead costs down for contractors in 2026?
First and foremost, I think that you need to make sure that you have focus on your brand and your messaging, and you've got to, be different there and kind of stand out, make sure it's memorable. And then this year, 100% diversification. We started running around a little bit at the end of last year to go see a bunch of our clients and really start, recap 2025 performance, plan for 2026. And, we agree with you. I mean, these digital advertising costs are just, going through the roof. Obviously, private equity is playing a big part in that. As they continue to consume the smaller organizations, they kind of have an unlimited budget and they're just putting everything on autopilot. We obviously have had some experience with some of the private equity firms, and they just don't really have the granular expert level skill set to not destroy the market. But sometimes I'm like, is it intentional or is it non-intentional? Yeah, I mean, diversifying your strategies. I know we've kind of joked about it a little bit, but you need to make sure that you got your trucks wrapped. We suggest some traditional television, some great targeting through OTT, get some print mail out there as the cost per click keeps going up on these platforms. I'd kind of rather deliver a custom message directly to the homeowner and know exactly, who I'm reaching. Those are some of the things that we're really sprinkling in. And then SEO, which I mean, that's now out into literally 4 branches. So it's pretty crazy.
Well, that's interesting because people ask me, like, what are you marketing in? And I'm like, all right, get a pen. There's a lot of stuff in there because I like to look at marketing like a diversified stock portfolio. I don't have all my money in one company, right? I've got it in multiple, avenues. And you mentioned one specifically, OTT,
Yes.
that's changing fast too. I mean, what's going to happen with all of these companies buying other companies and streaming services and all that stuff? Are you seeing a shift in over the top? Because I love it.
Yeah, so right now, what's really interesting for us is you can see the traditional landscape changing because you've got the Nextstars and Sinclairs all having these different conversations. For us, that's kind of scary because if you do see the combination, it's going to end up kind of monopolizing everything, and the advantage goes to them instead of yourself. Obviously, looking to place buys. So that's kind of a scary thing for us. We'll see what happens. But as far as the OTT front, I see more and more platforms making smarter decisions, more transparency in the data and delivery, a lot of changes within the auction and, where you're buying it and how you're placing it. But OTT is one of my favorite things. I always say it's like TV and Google had a baby, and now I can target people and deliver the message on a connected TV. And that's exactly what I love to do.
Yeah. So are you guys starting to experiment? I've noticed this on a lot of different ads where there's actually a call to action and even a function in the ad on your stream platform that you can activate with your remote. Have you guys experimented with that at all?
So we haven't experimented with it yet. That's kind of like another layer up. We did start putting the QR. I don't know if you guys put that in for Vesta, but we did the QRs. It's amazing how many people are actually pulling out their phone to not only scan the QR, but then to actually call the tracking number that is associated with these OTT advertisements. For us, that's great because it's just proof, but it's wild to see people actually doing that.
Well, I know there's going to be some of you guys out there, all 7 of you, that are going to be like, wow, diversifying just means I need to spend more money, right? And Mike, what I love about you and your team there is like, there's also an aspect of, what are the biggest money leaks that you see contractors making in their marketing that otherwise could save and then slingshot into diversification?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, it's different when you're working with an agency. It's really the agency's responsibility to try to be as efficient and effective with your marketing budget as possible, because obviously the goal is generate as many, real opportunities that come in, qualified lead, obviously within your geography and a service that you perform. But then we want to turn into an appointment. You want to be able to run it. You want to be able to sell it. So, we kind of track everything back with the ROAS and, marketing percentages. But where I see the biggest leaks are if somebody's kind of managing on their own, or they've got somebody in house that they think knows Google. And, I say Google because Google's the first thing they're jumping on. They're firing up their local service ads on Google. Unfortunately, they're automatically opted into the brand, and then they're getting messaging, and you don't want to pay for any of that. So that's probably the biggest area of leaks. Also, if you're running standard ads, Google's defaulting you into all their AI options right off the rip. And if you're not like a seasoned, digital marketer, you're just out there and you're pretty much letting Google run whatever they want. And, when Performance Max doesn't have volume, it literally like hallucinates. It goes out and tries to find something that might be somewhat relevant. And then it's like, whoa, you're way off base. And the bots just get a hold of it. It's crazy.
Well, yeah, and let's talk about the bots that are starting to take over our planet and soon to be Skynet. So AI, let's go and dive into it before we start seeing listeners drop. Like, where does AI actually help contractors in generating more leads? Because I think we all are like, I don't know how the hell, I'm just jumping on ChatGPT and figuring it out. But where are you seeing where it's actually moving the needle?
So as far as AI, I'm very excited about seeing the evolution of these platforms. We're seeing some ads in the AI overviews on Google. ChatGPT obviously has announced and they're experimenting a bit. We're in line to grab a flight to see if we can, run some of these ads. But the hard part's going to be, how does it know where someone is in their journey? Because it's no longer like 2 or 3 words for a search. These folks, probably like you and like me, I mean, I pull out my phone and I'm like literally talking to it and, having a complete conversation. So it knows a little bit more and then it works through the funnel. But I still haven't been served an ad. We'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to, seeing what kind of experience I have. But I do think that as AI really gets dialed in and learns a little bit more about the users, the functionality, even the business types, we're going to see some success in the way that it's going to help convert. But
Mhm.
outside of that, on the advertising side, AI, I'm just still not really buying into it. When you engage the features on Meta, it's just still wonky.
Yeah, and I try not to go 2 feet first into something that I don't fully understand or can't measure the results in. It's one of those, I may regret my words when I say this, but, like, we're starting to nudge into it, but we're using more AI internally and also to, for example, analyze our best customer base and figure out their pain points and needs, and then use that to serve better content out there through things like Meta and social media outreach, just all that. So, but let's go to one of the highest frustrations that all contractors have, and it's this beautiful little marriage between paid ads and SEO. And, like, what are you seeing, and what advice would you give about the balance shifting from one to the other, and, for those people that have home service businesses out there?
It's really tough. I think we kind of touched on this, in the previous episode when you guys had me on. I was always kind of a skeptic because, obviously, when I was a marketing director for the Basement Doctor, at that point, we had initially engaged with another agency that was managing our website. So we would provide them with content and then they would optimize and give us an SEO report with thousands of keywords and wherever they supposedly ranked. And, I'm like, man, this is snake oil. Cause, Ron Greenbaum, my partner, would come to me and say, all right, how is this investment paying off? And I'm like, man, I don't know. I'm running ads and I'm instantly getting you phone calls and we're booking them to leads. The SEO stuff, obviously, it's a slow and grow, but I didn't feel real good about their strategy. Well, when we 2017 formalized the agency and then we started building out our team, and it wasn't until what, 3? Yeah, I think we're 3 years into actually offering search engine optimization, and we've built an entire team around it. But it's wild because now things are changing so much. The different ways that you have to put the content in, your rich snippets. Obviously, we always had meta descriptions and you needed relevancy on keywords, but it's no longer keyword stuffing. And, you have to make sure that you're not upsetting it, and you have to speak with authority, and it likes FAQs and statistics. And so the game's changing. I like it because I feel like it's becoming more relevant. But now, we're talking about your standard SEO, which is your search engine result pages that everybody was used to. Then you've got your local map packs and, your local SEO. Now you've got your generative, engine optimization, which is your GPTs and your Geminis. And then you've got the answer engines, the AEO. And that would be like, I'm not going to say it because you know who's over here listening, but on all of our devices. And if you've got some of those Amazon products throughout your house, they're upgrading to a new version of this AI. And I mean, again, it's just not fantastic, but I think it'll get better. But the balance between those. So this year, I went back to my team and I said, all right, here's our new packages that we're rolling out, which in fact, I think go out in the next few days. But in these new packages, we have different levels that address the changes that, you need to put money into, essentially, to rank in all these different ways. Everybody wants to get leads from ChatGPT now. We hear it all the time. But what's wild about this is it's still like, where's the proof? So what we did is we worked back and I came up with ROS, which is return on SEO spend. And so I hold my team accountable and I said, look, I know we're optimizing Google business profiles and Bing places, but I want to see how many organic phone calls or form fills we're getting from the website on a monthly basis, and how much did this person spend for that? Then we correlate it through how did they perform, their typical engine of lead to appointment, appointment set, appointment run, close, revenue, and then work that back. And that's been literally, now that justifies it to me.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then we're going to get into conversion rates here in a second because I love how you talk about that. But let's rewind a little bit because we've got a lot of contractors out there, obviously going up against massive competitors with deep pockets.
Yes.
And what are some of the strategies you're helping your companies to implement? Kind of like this David and Goliath story where it's like, how do you throw precise stones at this monster rather than trying to compete on them or compete with them on their terms? So what's been some of the strategy you guys have been implementing?
First and foremost, local. So what we really like on the local side is getting our clients involved in the community. So finding things that they're passionate about, because what we found is that PE doesn't necessarily care about what goes on in the community or community involvement in general. And so we're really just taking a recipe that we used back at the Basement Doctor where, we're out and we're supporting organizations, we're getting opportunities on TV, we're creating quality information that then gets posted and then backlinks back to your site. We build out, different authority signals that we share out through email and, social that kind of drive traffic back and show relevancy. But, that's more the community. Outside of that, it's all about case studies and authority and, capturing these experiences, capturing the testimonials, showing before, during, and after. That's kind of the way that we're suggesting to diversify to be able to tell your story and kind of beat the big guys back.
Yeah. What's been some cool case studies in the last year or two that you guys have put on that local aspect?
So it's interesting. One of the cool case studies, one of our clients, and he's a manufacturer. So Crack Stitch, they've got
Uh-huh.
a really
Oh,
cool
yeah.
product.
Yeah, we use Rack Stitch.
Yeah, there you
Awesome product.
go. So Julio Reyes is actually a super long time friend of mine. We used to travel the world in a previous lifetime all the way back to 2006. So, now that he's up there with Fortress and, Crack Stitch, we're kind of working through these different elements. Well, the big Ford building up there had I don't know, whoever built it, obviously it had some serious issues. So they were able to do an incredible case study utilizing Crack Stitch there. Other than that, I mean, we've got a cool client up in Michigan. They do a lot of remodeling. And so those case studies are like fire. It's amazing because people that are interested in remodeling aren't necessarily reading these things on a local side. They're, finding these blogs from all over the United States. And then they love the ideas, how do you do more organization? How do you do this kids playroom? How do you create this tech room with gaming and all sorts of cool stuff? So yeah, case studies, and they do rank very well.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, I know that there's gonna be a lot of contractors up against building a new website this year, and it's been a while for me, but I remember my last build. It's an arduous process, right?
It
It's not
is.
like you flip a switch and all of a sudden the phone starts ringing, right? You gotta work at it, and in my experience, when I did this last, it's been years now, like, I set a schedule. It's like, "Okay, I'm gonna queue up, like, 8 blogs, but I'm not gonna put them all out at once. We're gonna drip those. I'm going to write maybe a product specific page for my marketing company or vendor. So then that way we're writing additional pages. And then also, like you said, case studies. I'm gonna start hoarding case study data and to the point where it's like, okay, I've got something that's going to drip out weekly that's going to add and ramp up to the website. Then I'm going to have another product that does every 2 weeks and then another one maybe every month. So I've got kind of a full court press that my marketing vendor is not waiting on me to generate this stuff. And does that strategy still apply to help speed the contractor through that first 100 days of a build?
100%. So, and you've got it all lined up. I mean, you could literally teach this. So, essentially, a typical build, like with our agency for a website, is like 90 business days. It starts out with your discovery, and then you kind of talk about the design elements, assess the current website. We are right now about every 2 to 3 years, we see that technology platforms, the way that we need to write, the way that we need to build these things, all of those change based on the priorities of whatever that business is and what their goals are essentially. So you're spot on because once, let's say everything's perfect, we've got everything key, service pages, about page, home page, contact page. Then from there, you're looking to build out authority. And those authority signals are like geoservice case studies. If you've got very specific products, especially if you're white labeling something and you've made it unique to yourself, having that be an internal, linking structure where it comes off of a service and ties it into it. Those are huge elements. But the big piece that a lot of folks like just aren't following up on, it's one thing to take that quality content and drip that onto your site. But at the same time, you really need to be sending those signals out. So utilizing, LinkedIn and Meta, sending out e-blasts. We even say, if you've got something really cool that you feel's got some bite, maybe you have a limited time offer, put that on a postcard, throw a QR on it, send people to it, because Google and the rest of the SERPs are actually seeing, okay, these people are coming to this page. They know where you're coming from, geographically. They look at your dwell time, and then they're looking at the signals for those key events of a phone call or a form fill. All of this improves your relevancy, and that is exactly what the search engines are looking for.
Well, and I know there's people out there, I've even thought of it. We do it all the time now where it's like, if my marketing vendor says, hey, we need you to write a few blogs. And then somebody just goes to chat and throws in some stuff. Like, what's the negative effects of using AI in that format to prevent people from making mistakes that are going to essentially hurt their SEO?
Yeah. So first and foremost, AI is fantastic as a starter. So for like a lot of our clients, our team laughs about it, but I create a lot of custom GPTs. We've got a Mike GPT that the internal team uses. I created a custom GPT that would literally be like a business growth strategist, but it was like overly smart, so we didn't want to release it. But then we create some that are like brand voice. So, like our guys, Rhino, we build out their brand voice, and, we kind of assist with that on the content structures. And I know Ashley writes incredible blogs. So the goal is you can start in a GPT or a Gemini or a Claude, but you have got to go back in and you have to humanize it, because you're going to notice the stupid M dashes. You're going to notice like repetitive nature. AI doesn't do a good job in speaking with authority or tying things into like localization. Those are really the hindrances. And then there's stupid AI words. I mean, we laughed about elevate, like that was the one that was way overused early on. So there's a lot of things that really have to go into that. And, for a while, obviously Google was threatening people like, yeah, if you're using, AI to write these things, we'll be able to know. Well, yeah, sure. There's some breadcrumbs. So, if you've got like Grammarly or something that you can run it through, we obviously subscribe to SEMrush, really high package. You can put a lot of content in, you can, kind of scrub through it, humanize things. But that's the whole intent. You need a person to be able to read this and feel a certain way about the content that's there to take action.
I know you mentioned Ashley before, and for our 5-6 listeners out there, Ashley used to run my marketing team, and she did an awesome job to the point where she started her own thing, and she works alongside you guys as
Rock
well.
star. She's a
Yeah.
rock star.
And my question is this, because you guys can sort of be the fractional marketing person for companies, right? And when do you feel like it's healthy for a construction company like ours to eventually say, hey, this person is running marketing? Because I know a lot of owners do it, and that's because they're probably a little bit more, I call it cavalier about spending marketing dollars. Well, not all of us, but I am. I'm like, throw money at it. We're going to figure this out. But what size do you recommend in, call it millions of revenue, for a company to really bring on somebody of a marketing manager? Ladies, running your small business can be demanding. You got suppliers you got to work with. You're managing crews. Hell, you're chasing sales. It's a lot to take in. Listen, if you want to grow your business, you got to stop working in it and you got to start working on it. So that's where my friends at Foundation Rescue Supply come in. You're not just getting foundation repair products and waterproofing products and air quality control products. With their nationwide distribution, you're getting a partner who knows how to help you scale. And that's why I use them. The Foundation Rescue Supply team has industry knowledge that'll help make your life easier. You get the tools, the trainings, the systems that you need to move the needle. You want your sales team to close more leads? Done, because they have the proven process for that. You need your crews to work smarter, not harder? Done. Their installation training will get you out there and rocking and rolling in the field. With Foundation Rescue Supply, you're not just buying materials here, you're buying a better business system that they have helped create. And you sell more, you install more, and you grow your team. So the bottom line is this: you get best industry pricing, you get field productivity on track, and you get more revenue out of everybody on your team. So this is your chance to step up, scale up, and thrive. If you are ready to make that happen, head to foundationrescuesupply.com, check out their catalog, and speak to my friends, their team, how you can take beyond the products with your company with Foundation Rescue Supply.
So it's funny because we stage these out, and I know that you look at the same things. We've created roadmaps of 3 to 5, 5 to 7, 7 to 10, 10 plus, and anything below 3 million is really tough because we've seen an independent contractor roll out there and pull in nowadays, obviously with inflation and everything else, 1.5 million, maybe upwards to like 2 million. Well, at that point, they're looking to, okay, I need to invest in somebody managing my lead management, phone calls, form fills, speed to lead. I can't be in somebody's crawl space answering the phone. I'm going to miss this opportunity. And if you're not answering those calls, you're just wasting your money. So what we look at is by the time you get to 3 million, now you're looking at someone that can potentially take over your marketing responsibilities. And if you're looking for one person to run your marketing internally, that's where we see the struggles because one person can't necessarily do a quality job on web, social, email, you name it. And that's the scary part. But you can go out and you can get, a fractional CMO at the cost, if not less, of a human being. And then that person is then responsible for understanding what's going on in your business, what do you need to do to get to the next stage, and who should you be working with, as a partner. And that's where, like even with Ashley, it's been great because back and forth, we have these wonderful conversations. Her business growth strategists are, fractional CMOs. She obviously is a fractional CMO as well. And we've all got different strong suits. So, coming and working together, we see her, working with these 3 million, $5 million a year companies and saying, okay, we don't want to have a big marketing team, but we need to have the right marketing partner.
Yeah. So on that note, because even for people that want to know a little bit of my background in my development of my marketing department, we got to this point where we were like, yeah, we're going to do everything in-house. And that sounds great. It actually saved money. However, there's just so much updates that one person can't keep up with it. Like you have to have a team. Like, and that's what you guys have there is obviously you have your specialists that are keeping up because, certain people are really good at maximizing that SEO side, but then you got to have the graphics people, all this stuff. And so I used to wear that as a badge years ago of like, yeah, we do everything in-house. And it's kind of like, actually, we were hurting ourselves by doing it that way. We were saving money on the front end, but we couldn't keep up with the technology updates. And it eventually kind of cut the legs out from underneath us. We had to look for third-party sources to help us. But let's shift a little bit, Mike, because we flirted with it before. Conversion rates. I mean, I used to brag about like a speed to lead of like 2 minutes on average. Now I'm hearing some crazy stuff. We're focusing on it because, hell, you paid for this stuff.
Yes.
You get the phone to ring, and then like, that's great, but did you convert it? You guys are also focusing on that strategy. What's been the best practices in the last year to help make sure we're maximizing our conversion?
Yeah, I mean, best practices, obviously, you're aware of them. There are a bunch of utilities that you can actually subscribe to and butt up that will essentially instantly reply to a form fill or convert a form fill into a phone call so that it's ringing to your agent. Then if you've got like after hours or overflow, there's, solutions like Avoca's got them, CallRail, has a AI voice assist. All of these different things are essentially put in place to try to make up for maybe not such a great call center or customer service experience. And I feel like this is incredibly important because the marketing and advertising is one thing and it generates opportunities. But if you're not answering the phone call when the person calls or getting back to that form fill almost instantly, they're off to see someone else. And that is proven time and time again. So you've got to be so fast. And we prioritize that. Now we're telling everyone qualified lead to appointment set, we want to see 90 to 95%. And, you can see how that correlates to the downstream. So where people were like, I'm just going to answer my own phone, or I'm sure you've heard Anthony, talk about it, but he's always like, don't hire your mom, your sister, your cousin.
Yeah.
But it happens. It happens time and
Oh,
time
yeah,
again.
I did. I saw that on social media.
Yep.
That was at the Indianapolis conference that we were at.
Yes.
And yes, it happens. Now, hold on. For anybody that knows me, when we started our company here in Oklahoma City, my wife was running that call center, but she knew she had skin in the game. By
Yes.
golly, she was awesome. But yeah, it is funny. Like they pick up the phone and you can tell it's somebody's great aunt that
Yep.
needed a job and is just answering the phone.
Well, and the worst part is, so you were talking about like the experts, we've got 24 folks on our team. And this year I made some pretty big investments to bring in, people so that I could kind of get out of a lot of the granular stuff and be, more up on the front end and focus more on strategy to really lead for our clients. And our guys, they listen to all the phone calls for like the LSAs and they're always in call rail and they listen to it and they make their notes so that when they go into the monthly recap, they're like, all right, so I don't know if Janice's family, but maybe she shouldn't be answering your phone. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's funny. And it's interesting because, yeah, that every one of those situations are leaving an impression, right? Which is kind of like the advantage over the big guys is like you can have that detailed personality with a client or a customer being the local figure, right? But there is a big move to have a lot of AI kind of response agents now and some after hour responses. How are you seeing that shake out? I mean, is it
I
helping?
it's
Is
it's
it
really
is it not
tough.
there yet?
It's so close. So the original betas that, we were part of with our agency, we knew, okay, you're better than just a voicemail because with a voicemail, someone's gonna get the voicemail and they'll probably just hang up. But if you've got, the AI answering and literally able to talk about business hours, services, service areas, general questions, and then prepare that homeowner for a follow-up call, we saw that it was actually converting, and that was fine. Then it went through another wonky stage because every time someone tries to take this big step in the AI, you can see that, okay, great, we're going to add personality. Well, now the personality turned into additional thought, like it's taking a little while longer to think about things. Obviously, this is going to continue to evolve because these companies are in a race to be the best of the best. And, we see two, that we're really following right now because it's kind of we're on one platform and they're fantastic, but they have a ways to go, I think, to get to the point where now it can replace a call center associate. I don't know that we're there. I know that Avoca claims that they've got that support, that their AI, and I'll tell you, we used Avoca for call coaching. I don't know if you ever used Avoca for call coaching.
I've heard of it.
It was fantastic. And of course, they've got years and years and years of data, probably more than most as far as what was happening on these calls, what's quality, what's not. And they started to they could like capture emotion and understand the emotion to be able to work through that, but it's still, I feel like it's just not there, and I bet we're like a year off. Everything's moving so much faster. Before I'd say, "Oh, well, it'll be 2 years." Now I'm like, "Man, it's probably gonna be within 2026, we are going to feel like, wow, these AI agents are replacing human beings on call center phone calls."
Yeah. Well, and that's what I'm seeing too is and we've spoken about this at conferences about inside sales, doing that follow-up, and we've got a rock star inside sales team, but I've been pretty steadfast in saying, "Hey, eventually this is going to be taken over by AI." However, it's just not there yet, and a lot of it has to do with the integration of your CRM or ERP, access to editing proposals in real time, making those pricing decisions too. And, we're utilizing like Rilla with our sales ride along team. We're even dabbling into a product called Spiky AI, which gives real time feedback in conversational sales, but that's typically over the computer, right? And to highlight objections right there on the spot. That's sales. We're talking about marketing here, but yeah, it's right. It's just like, man, it's just not there yet, but
Not.
it's progressing fast.
It is. It all goes together though. I know you were saying like marketing and sales. I feel like the whole darn thing goes together now because sales impacts marketing and obviously vice versa. I was just blown away and I had to tag Anthony on LinkedIn. Ciro just released something like what you were saying where they're very, great on the ride-alongs and they listen and everything else, but now they have that real-time conversation insights where like it's gonna let the guy know and he get real-time feedback and we're laughing. We're like, this is crazy how this is all evolving to the point
Bro,
where
it's not.
like,
Yeah.
no, Mike, say this. What?
I know. It's like and you pause, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, the earbud kicked in. Now I know what.
That's what's going to happen. You know, you're going to be
Oh,
there
dude, it's
and
so
you're
fair.
talking, and all of a sudden this thing's
Yeah.
giving you some feedback, and be like, oh, I'm going to watch for it in interviews. I'm telling you.
Well, hey, on that note, because I do think there's some things that are there in regards to the text interface function for converting leads. For those customers that want a direct chat with you, to them, it's just their phone. But on your end, it could be a variety of products like Hatch, Podium, all sorts of things. Obviously, you and I both love CallRail. It's an awesome product. But on that side of instantly trying to convert a lead to an appointment via conversational text, what tools are you seeing the best use there?
So the one that we've actually used and experimented and had success, it is, you know, through CallRail, but I know that there are a plethora of companies out there that offer that. And what a fantastic solution, because I don't know about you, but I'm like, during my day, can I really hop on a phone? Probably not, but I can shoot a text and have a whole, you know, communication and tell somebody, hey, this is my availability. This is when I'd like to have you out to my house. I mean, that is convenience. But, you know, I'm not a big fan of jumping on a call and scheduling something. So I think that, you know, the more receptive we are to this is kind of the way that we're going. I mean, my mom, she's going to jump on a phone. She's not going to text with you, and she's certainly not going to email. So companies still have to be able to answer the phone. But out of convenience for me, man, I love, you know, speed text. Text, get me something set up, confirm it. I mean, I pay through text all the time now too. So
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Like, I am a stereotypical millennial. So, yes, I will never answer a phone call. That sounds so terrible.
yep. Well, they better leave a voicemail or shoot me a
Yeah.
text.
Text, man. It's gotta like just send them the text, man. I'm just like, and then I'll figure it out from there. But yeah, this aspect of customer and how they respond or are wanting to be responded to and communicated with, I know it's got us all just spinning because the old days of no, I'm gonna take a phone call. We're gonna schedule the time, we're gonna get all that information down, and we're gonna come to your house and we're going to sit down for 90 minutes and go through the estimate and all that. What behaviors are you seeing there in the whole lead base that we as contractors need to be thinking of going into this year?
I think that everyone's got to be really prepared. So, number one, obviously, speed to lead. So, answer the phone call. If you happen to miss it, try to get back to them, but call, text, and, you know, if you've got an email if you've got their email. But yeah, calling and texting, follow up is essential. You know, as far as the form fills coming in, like you were saying, we used to say 5 minutes or less. No, like literally instant, you know, get that sucker and reply to it if you're not already using an autoresponder. And then the next part is, and this is what people aren't really thinking about, we use it as kind of a barometer to determine, are you at capacity limitations? So once the lead comes in, you get the appointment set. Between appointment set and appointment run, it's hard. I mean, I don't know what you guys are seeing in your business, but we're hearing repeatedly that when someone's out 7 to 10 days, if it's beyond that, they're dropping. I mean, like they're
Oh,
literally,
yeah. Yeah, and I thank God I'm not in, like, garage doors, right, where they gotta
oh,
get out fast,
yep,
man. Yeah, specific to my industry of foundation repair, waterproofing services, like, yeah, it was common to be like, "Yeah, we're out, like, 10 business days, no big deal," but, man, 10 business days now is, like, brutal. Or we see
yeah,
massive drops in cancellation rates. You know, it's just obviously it's a more competitive landscape now because, I mean, everybody's sitting here trying to get the most out of their leads,
yes,
and they've been down, of course, across a lot of markets. Now, granted, it depends on your size, so I guess I should add some clarity there. You know, if you're trying to go from 1 million to 3 million, you can find the leads. You know, you're up above 15 million, you're starting to saturate a market. It's a little different. So that's where we got to get clever in that. I got to tell you, I haven't been bold enough yet, Mike, but have you heard of anybody starting to do this influencer marketing style where they find like a local influencer in a community, and then what they do is they get a spot with them? Do you have clients doing this right now?
yeah. So we do have one. He is in Tennessee, and I don't know. I probably shouldn't say who it is, so I'll at least just give you enough information. They are using an influencer. It is a gentleman that is on probably the highest level of trust that you could be within a community. And so it is literally promoting them. And that is helping people wait, like they're willing to wait because they now have this third party that has a ton of respect, in that community. And, so people look at that, and now he's done like promos. They do like shop visits. They were doing, oh gosh, an installation visit and walkthrough. And it almost reminded me, and I'm going to tell you, shoot, I wish that we had somebody here locally that would be able to do it, in Columbus, because I see that it's very valid. I mean, if this is an individual that has, a high level of respect from the community, people trust this individual, you just instantly turned into Bob Vila. So now you can go around to these home service companies and you could be like, this is my preferred roofer. This is my preferred pest company. Because now you've got this whole trust around you. And it's pretty interesting. I mean, for those folks that are listening, it might be something creative for you to give a try.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird. Part of me wants to dive into that world and just try it out. Essentially, in my mind, I was trying to simplify it to say it's just a celebrity endorsement,
That's it.
but it's just in a different format. It's not like we're going to go to a studio and they're going to have a spot and like wear your shirt and whatever. It's not that. It's like it's in short form, and
It
it's
is
just
short.
like I'm so intrigued by this. I want to explore it so bad because I've heard wild stories from all over the country.
We did this with the basement doctor. It was really interesting too, because it was like one of Ron's ideas, because Ron felt like, hey, you know what? I'm the expert in, basement waterproofing, foundation repair. And we had this gentleman that was, for a long time, everybody knew him for doing sports for the TV channel. And then he kind of went off and did his own thing. And we got to be really close with Dave. And we told him, Dave, you're kind of like this Bob Vila type of thing. Everybody knows you in the Columbus area, and we'd like to start bringing you out on different jobs. And, you can ask the questions and obviously talk to the homeowners and everything else. I'm telling you, it was so great for positioning, and people would talk about it and they would mention it because it was different. They hadn't necessarily seen it. And now you had someone that was almost vouching for a company to provide this. They did. They turned it into a show, where they would go and promote all these people in the area. So I guess that's a way to build up your reputation.
Well, and I got to give kudos. Obviously, I know you were a part of it, but Ron did a great job with his company, Basement Doctor, by being the brand and being out there in the community, which I know ties back to that local comment. Like,
Yes.
what do you say to the contractor that doesn't want to be the face? It's almost like they want to be behind the curtain because, man, it is powerful. And like, how do you get them out of their shell and out in front? Of course, I know it's sometimes like the Ballad of Ricky Bobby, where they're not
Oh,
they're
yeah.
not trained in speaking in public or on a camera or anything. But I still believe like homeowners want to know that the owner is a real person
They
and
do.
is there. And so, what's your take on?
Well, I think that's the advantage. We were talking about like on the PE side. So the reason why David still has a chance in this fight is because if you've got charisma and you've got confidence and you've got a good team and you know your craft, you can get out there. And Ron always tells everybody, and I love it when he shares his war stories. We were doing it out at World of Concrete too. It wasn't easy to begin with. He stood in front of his pickup truck and a camera, and he did it like a million times. And, he always says, it wasn't good for so long, but I took all the critical feedback. So, for the contractors that are listening out there, don't be scared. Try now, and try on social media first before you think you want to take to TV. Go ahead and, record with your friends and your family, try in front of a mirror, talk about these things, because at the end of the day, as long as you know that you're talking to the homeowner and you're being sincere and you know your craft, then what are you worried about? Like, that's my biggest suggestion, but I think it's a fantastic thing. If you don't want to do that, you better find someone in your organization and you better give them some skin in the game so that they don't become your face and then bail on you. Just saying that. I've seen it happen. But, outside of that, you have to have a brand icon, and we've done that too, where we created a 2D or a 3D animated character. We gave it a voice. It tells a story, it pops up in your commercials and everything else. And that's the other way around it. But it's something that is memorable. It's authentic. I love it. I think, the face of the brand means that, hey, Will, you're the face of the brand. If I have a problem, I know I can come to you. So now there's a higher element of trust and respect, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree. And one of those. I tried to stay away from that completely with my company until we opened an office in Arkansas. And that demographic really wanted to make sure that this was a local company, right? So we were like, all right, well, let's go to the playbook. And the trucks all had pictures of me and Sydney on the side
Lord.
and things like that. And it worked.
Yeah.
And granted, we have enough brand presence there. We're talking about shifting that around. It was funny. It's like, all right, well, I gotta go put on some makeup and get my pictures taken.
The scary part's the legacy play. I will tell you that, and obviously for your listeners, if you do become the face of the brand and, the legacy plan is that you are going to, sell and retire and, whatever that is, that was the scary part. I mean, when I first interviewed with Ron, we talked about what was the legacy plan, like what happens when you're no longer in the business. And at that point, they had just created their first timeless 2D logo, because prior to that, it was Ron from 10 years prior. His face is on the side of billboards, trucks, everything else. It was outdated the minute you put it on there. And, I'm like, so we took his character and evolved it into a 3D character and started slowly bleeding that. That was how we kind of got away with it. And then obviously they sold to private equity 2 times, but that kind of carried on and the brand does strong and he's done, so.
It is funny though. I mean, it's like Ron's the Mario to the basement waterproofing.
He is
He
Mario.
really is.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't know. It's just something about his face is trustworthy. It does. You said Bob Vila before. He's got that vibe about him. But hey, before we wrap, I mean, I want to hear this. Like, what's the hard truth most contractors need to hear about their marketing in 2026? Because, man, I know you can't say it to them in a meeting, but you can say it to me, Mike. It's just me and
Oh, I can
you.
say it to
Somebody
Will. Yeah,
listening
so
to
it'll
this.
be like one of our conference conversations.
Yeah.
The biggest thing for contractors to understand out there is that it's not and the guys, this is really my team, talking about it, because we love our clients. We work really hard for them. We're passionate about our relationships. We want them to succeed. But there's this mentality where I can put $1 in the machine and get 10 back. Well, that's our goal. Obviously, we want you to be 10x. We want to give you 10 bucks back for every one you put in the machine. But that's not the reality. And there are ebbs and flows in the business. There are ebbs and flows. We're going through crazy economical times, political, weather. I mean, you name it. So there's challenges. So you can't always just think you're going to phone a friend and, crank up your budget and get more leads. And that's not the reality. So that's why we say, diversify, be prepared to get out and be boots on the ground, be prepared. And that's why I was going to talk to you about the 4 R's, focus on your reviews, your referrals, your repeat business, and your rehash. Because if you're doing those 4, when things get tough, you've got all of these systems in place where you can support your business. As you mentioned, those $15 million guys, man, they're feeling the pain right now. Trust me, they're feeling it. And, we can see as it kind of goes on down, you mentioned the 1 to 3s, they don't really feel it right now. They're getting enough that they can kind of keep going and everything else. But the bigger guys, as you go up, there's a struggle. And, you have a certain overhead. You have a certain requirement that you have to meet to get a certain number of opportunities. So you've got to be all over the place and, try new things. And I mean, it's funny. We've got guys that are out door knocking now and seeing success, which is, I wouldn't answer my door for you. I'll tell you that.
Dude, I tell you, yeah, in insulation alone, we're seeing a big movement in door to door. I mean, we revamped our door hanger process last year. We had 1,100 door hangers go out, and damn, it did awesome. It was amazing. So it's just wild to see how that works. But yeah, based on that, Mike, I love you. I respect you. I love your team. We mentioned Anthony's name for everybody wondering. That's Anthony Brown. He is the man.
He's awesome.
A blast. Also, your team, Alyssa. We get to see her filming you guys at conferences. But
I know I feel so bad for her.
Yeah, I know, right? She's she's not afraid to get in front of the camera either. She's hysterical. So, which is another thing. You guys are just practicing what you preach. You're building your brand, right? And bringing personality to it. And that's why, you've helped plenty of my clients. And that's why I love having you on.
Appreciate it.
Listen, super pumped to have you also as a sponsor. Listen, for you guys listening, I get approached by tons of people. I don't let anybody just sponsor our show. So I'm actually pumped because you've helped so many people. But otherwise, how do we get a hold of you? If somebody wants to get a hold of you, how do they do it?
Yeah, I recommend going to greenbaumstiers.com. That's GreenbaumStiers.com. Yeah, go there. Obviously, you can find me, Michael Stiers on LinkedIn. Been connecting with a lot of people. We're putting out a ton of content and experiences. And, we're just much like you do, just trying to really give information to the contractors out there because there is generalized information that we consider remedial, but I'm finding that it's not. And all of these new business owners, being able to kind of pick this up, it's almost a cheat code. And what you and Terry do is just absolutely phenomenal. And you're helping the industry so much so that we can give a better experience to the homeowners. And I mean, kudos to you on that.
Yeah. Tell me more about me, Mike. I love to hear it. Hey, I'm just kidding.
Can we talk about Construct My Future? I mean,
yeah, that's right. Yep. You guys are helping us with our Construct My Future site. And man, I love it because you guys have national experience in that realm.
We're excited, man. I'm telling you, Will, what you're doing, that's what's fantastic. I hope that your audience, and they probably don't even understand how much you're involved, how much you help in the industry. I mean, now that I'm getting involved with a lot of these organizations, obviously we were just laughing about having to jump from one place to go to the next place. And it's just a reality. You are such a giver of resources and, you're trying to help people avoid making the mistakes that you made or others, had made that you've observed. And that is really important to the home service industry, regardless of whether you're a waterproof or a roof or hardscaper. I mean, it's just essential. And I appreciate everything you give back.
Yeah. Well, I'm flattered. And I think the same of you, Mike. You guys are awesome. But listen, I'll look forward to seeing you also in person here in a few weeks at another conference in Nashville and in Kentucky for the NFRA retreat. But to all you guys, you tradies out there, you guys have a kick-ass week. Stay warm on this next cold blast, and we will see you next week on another episode with Beers of Contractors, and Terry will be back. See you guys.
Cheers. Thanks, Will.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Beers with Contractors. We hope you enjoyed our chat as much as we did. Before we say our final goodbyes, a friendly reminder. Beers with Contractors encourages responsible drinking. If you choose to enjoy a beverage during our time together, please do so in moderation and only if you're of legal drinking age in your country or state. Furthermore, the advice and insights shared in this podcast are for informational purposes only. Always consult with professionals and experts in your field, and be sure to follow local laws and regulations regarding licensing and permits. We're here to help, entertain, and inspire, but your safety and compliance are important. So, as you head out into the world of construction and contracting, remember to build responsibly and make decisions that stand the test of time. Thanks for joining us today. We'll catch you on the next episode of Beers with Contractors. Until then, cheers to your success.